The night was heavy with smoke. The ruins of the battlefield stretched like a graveyard. Broken machines and shattered weapons lay scattered across the ground. Fire burned in small patches, casting strange shadows that moved like ghosts. The man stood in the middle of the ruins, his chest rising and falling, his hand gripping a weapon he barely understood. It was not made for human hands. Its edges sharp, its core humming with strange energy. Still he held it tight, because it was the only thing between him and death. Behind him the girl crouched low, her body trembling, her breath sharp and uneven, her small hands clutching his sleeve as if she feared he might vanish into the smoke. Her voice broke into the silence, soft, shaking but heavy with terror. "Please don't give me to them," she begged, her words trembling like glass ready to break. The man turned his head slightly. His eyes narrowed. He wanted to ask, "Who are they?" But the answer came before his lips could form the words. A sound rose through the ruins, low at first, then growing. Claws scraping against steel, footsteps heavy and slow. A rhythm of hunters moving as one, their approach carried by the echo of metal against stone. The girl pressed closer, hiding behind his back, her whisper urgent. "They are coming!" The man's grip on the weapon tightened, his heart thudding like a war drum in his chest. He had faced enemies before, but never ones like this, never ones that moved like shadows with eyes of fire. Through the smoke, shapes began to form. Tall figures armored in black metal, their helmets glowing with lines of red light. Their bodies strong, their weapons longer than a man's arm. The air around them hissed with the hum of energy. The man stood still, his body like stone, but his mind raced, fight or flee, protect the girl or save himself. The lead hunter stopped, its head tilting like a machine scanning its prey. A beam of green light swept across the ruins, climbing the broken walls, crawling over the man's body, pausing as it touched the girl. She gasped and pressed her face into his back, her whisper sharp. "They see me. They always see me." The hunter's voice came, broken and sharp, not human, but clear enough to be understood. "Return the subject, and you may live." The words cut through the smoke like a blade. The man's chest tightened, his eyes flicked to the girl, her face pale, her eyes wide with terror. She shook her head violently, tears in her eyes. Please don't let them take me." The hunters spread out, their heavy steps sinking into the dirt, their red eyes glowing brighter, surrounding him, closing in, the circle tightening. The man raised his weapon, its hum grew louder. The hunters paused for only a moment, their heads tilting again as if measuring the worth of his defiance. The girl's grip on his sleeve tightened, her voice a whisper against the chaos. "If they take me, it won't end with me. They will come for all of you." They will never stop. The man's thoughts clashed, his survival against her plea, the hunter's offer against her terror. The smoke thickened, the fire crackled louder, the choice heavy as iron in his chest. One hunter stepped forward, its claws scraping sparks from the ground, its voice sharp. "Surrender her." The man's lips pressed into a thin line, his heart hammering, his voice low but steady. "If you want her, you'll have to come through me." The hunters hissed in unison, a chorus of static and rage, their weapons raised. Beams of red light gathering at the tips, the ground glowed under their power. The chamber lit with deadly fire. The girl gasped, her arms clutching him from behind, her words breaking. "Please don't let me go. Don't let them take me." The man steadied his stance, sweat dripping down his brow, his finger hovering over the trigger of the strange weapon. And in that moment, with the smoke curling, the hunters ready to strike, and the girl trembling behind him, the world froze. The silence before the storm stretched thin, every heartbeat a drum of war. Then with a flash of red light, the hunters charged. The air grew heavy with smoke and silence. The man stood still, every muscle tense, his grip tight on the strange weapon he had picked up from the battlefield. Behind him, the girl shivered, clutching his arm as if letting go would mean death itself. Her whisper was broken, almost swallowed by fear. "They are here," she said, her voice trembling, and then he heard it too. The sound of claws scraping against steel, the sound of heavy armored feet moving in rhythm. It was not the noise of one creature, but many, each step strong, precise, almost mechanical. The sound echoed through the hollow ruins until it filled every corner. From the shadows ahead, figures began to appear, tall, armored beings with glowing eyes, their bodies covered in dark plates that shimmered in the dim light. Their helmets had no faces, only lines of red light cutting across where eyes should be. They carried long weapons that hummed with strange energy. The man pulled the girl closer, keeping her behind his back, his own heart hammering as he faced the hunters. The lead hunter raised its head, scanning the area with a small device on its wrist. A beam of green light swept across the rubble. It lingered for a moment where the man stood, then passed over him like a cold finger tracing his skin. "They know," the girl whispered, her nails digging into his sleeve. "They can smell me." The man glanced at her, frustration and confusion mixing in his mind. "Why?" he asked under his breath. "What do they want from you?" But she shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "Please don't ask, just don't give me to them." The hunters spoke to each other in a language the man could not understand. Their voices sharp, filled with static and metallic clicks. It was not speech as humans knew it, but a cold exchange of signals. The lead hunter raised a hand and the others spread out, surrounding the ruins in a wide arc, their glowing eyes scanning every shadow. The girl pressed closer, her body trembling. The man could feel her fear as though it was his own. "They will not stop," she said, her voice breaking. "If they catch me, they will not only take me, they will tear everything apart to reach me." The man tried to steady his breath. His weapon felt small compared to their massive forms, but he had no choice. He could not surrender her, not when she clung to him with such desperation. The hunters moved closer, their weapons raised. The sound of energy charging filled the air, a low hum that grew sharper with each passing second. Their red eyes glowed brighter, locking onto the pair like predators marking prey. Suddenly, one of them tilted its head and a voice came from the helmet, deep and unnatural but somehow clear. "Give her to us," the hunter said, "and you may live." The words struck him like a blade. The girl gasped, clutching him tighter, her voice rising in panic. "No, please don't give me to them." The man's jaw tightened, sweat running down his temple. He felt the weight of the decision. Survival screamed at him to surrender, but instinct pushed him to protect her. The hunters did not wait. They stepped forward, closing the circle, their claws scraping the floor, sparks flying as metal dragged across metal. The girl's breathing grew fast and shallow. She shook her head over and over, her eyes wild with terror. "They are not hunters," she whispered urgently. "They are collectors. They don't just kill. They take what is inside you." The man's stomach turned cold. He could not fully grasp what she meant, but the truth was in her eyes. The lead hunter raised its weapon. The humming grew louder. The ruins glowed faintly with the strange energy. The man stepped back, pulling her with him, his eyes darting across the shadows for an escape. Every exit was blocked, every corner guarded. They were trapped. The hunters moved in slow, certain steps, like wolves enjoying the fear of their prey, their glowing eyes never blinking, never breaking their cold gaze. The man raised his weapon, the hunters paused, tilting their heads as if amused. Their voices hissed through static again, mocking him. The girl clutched his arm tighter. "You cannot fight them," she said desperately. "We must run." The man's eyes fell on a dark crack in the wall nearby, half hidden under rubble, a tunnel maybe, maybe not. But it was the only chance. He pulled her close and whispered, "Stay behind me." The hunters sensed movement. They raised their weapons, red light gathered at the tips. The chamber filled with an electric charge, and then, in one sudden motion, the man grabbed the girl and dashed toward the rubble. Blasts of red light tore through the air. Explosions shook the ruins. Debris rained down. The hunters roared in their strange, broken voices. But the man did not stop. He pulled the girl through the smoke, into the darkness of the hidden path. The sound of hunters close behind, their claws tearing into the stone, their red eyes burning brighter. The chase had begun. The tunnel swallowed them in darkness. Dust fell from the ceiling as the ground shook from the hunters' blasts. The man dragged the girl deeper, his lungs burning, his ears ringing from the explosions above. The air smelled of rust, smoke, and something older, something alien. Behind them came the sound of claws scraping against stone. The hunters were not far, their metallic voices echoing through the narrow passage, each sound bouncing off the walls until it seemed they were everywhere at once. The man pressed forward, the beam of his weapon faintly lighting the way. Broken pipes hung from the ceiling, leaking black liquid that hissed when it hit the floor. The tunnel sloped downward, winding like the ribs of some dead beast. The girl stumbled, her hand gripping his arm so tightly he could feel her nails biting through the fabric. She whispered in a shaking breath, "They are faster than us. They will not stop." Her words struck him with weight, but he forced his voice to remain firm. "Then we keep moving, until they can't follow." A crash thundered behind them. The hunters had torn through the entrance. Red lights cut through the smoke, long beams sweeping across the walls as they crawled into the tunnel like predators entering a den. The girl's panic grew. She turned her face to him, her eyes wide and wet. You don't understand. They are not chasing me just because I escaped. They are bound to me. They can track my very breath. The man's jaw tightened. Sweat rolled down his face. He wanted answers. But this was not the time. Questions would not save them now. Only distance would. He spotted a fork in the path ahead. One side collapsed, the other a narrow slit in the rock, jagged edges waiting to tear at their skin. He pulled her toward it without hesitation. The tunnel forced them to squeeze sideways, stone scraping against their shoulders. The girl winced as her clothes snagged. The man shoved through, sparks from the hunter's weapons flashing behind them. Suddenly the tunnel opened into a chamber vast and hollow, its walls covered in alien markings that glowed faintly blue. Massive broken machines lay scattered like the bones of giants, gears the size of houses, pipes thicker than trees, all silent and cold. The girl gasped softly, her trembling replaced for a moment by awe. This place, it is ancient. The man glanced around, scanning for another exit, but all he saw were broken bridges, hanging cables and shadowed corners. Then pray it has a way out, he muttered. The hunters' voices echoed again, closer now. Their glowing eyes appeared at the far end of the chamber, spreading like red stars in the dark. The man pulled the girl toward a fallen metal beam that sloped upward toward a broken ledge. They scrambled over it, hands slipping on dust and oil. The beam groaned under their weight but held. The hunters raised their weapons. Red bolts cracked through the air. Striking the walls and machines, showers of sparks rained down. The girl screamed as one blast struck just beside her, searing a hole through the beam. The man shielded her with his body, forcing them onward. At the top of the ledge they found another tunnel, narrower than before, its walls trembling with each blast. The man shoved her inside first, shouting, "Go!" She crawled fast, her breath ragged, her hands scraping against the stone. The man followed, his weapon gripped in one hand, firing blindly behind him to slow the hunters, each shot lighting the tunnel in brief flashes of white fire. But the hunters did not falter. Their armored bodies scraped through the tight space, their claws digging into the walls as they dragged themselves forward. Unstoppable, the girl cried out as the tunnel shook, dust choking the air. A crack split the ceiling, rocks tumbling down. The passage was collapsing. The man grabbed her waist and pushed harder, forcing them through the tightening crawl space, the roar of falling stone drowning out the hunters' hisses. At last they burst out into another chamber, this one smaller, filled with water dripping from pipes above, the air damp and cold. The girl fell to her knees, coughing, clutching her chest, her face pale with exhaustion. The man knelt beside her, his hand steadying her shoulder, his voice low. "You must tell me why they want you. I cannot protect you if I don't know." Her eyes glistened. Her lips trembled. She looked at him as if torn between silence and truth. Finally she whispered, "Because I am not just running from them. I was made by them." The words froze the man, a cold weight pressing into his chest. But before he could speak, the hunter's claws scraped the stone again, their red eyes glowing at the chamber's edge. Closer than ever, the girl clutched his arm, desperation raw in her voice. "Please, if they take me back, I will never be me again." The man tightened his grip on his weapon, his body shaking with exhaustion but his eyes hard with resolve. He pulled her behind him once more, ready to face the red glow creeping closer. The escape was not over. It had only just begun. The chamber was silent except for the dripping water, each drop echoing like a drumbeat in the dark. The man steadied his breath, his eyes never leaving the tunnel behind them. The hunter's red glow flickered faintly at the edge of the shadows. Too close, too hungry. He turned to the girl, his voice low, sharp with urgency. "Now tell me the truth. Why are they after you?" The girl shook her head, her hair damp from sweat and water, her lips quivering. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If I tell you, you might not protect me anymore." The man's jaw tightened, frustration burning inside him. He leaned closer, his whisper fierce. "If I don't know what you are, I can't protect you at all, and if they catch us, we are both dead." For a moment she stared into his eyes, her own wide with fear but holding something deeper, something ancient. Then she lowered her gaze, her voice breaking like glass. "I was made by them, but I don't belong to them." The words cut through him like a blade. His mind racing, she looked human, fragile, weak. But now her trembling hands told another story. "What do you mean, made?" he demanded, his voice echoing off the damp stone walls. She hugged herself tightly, her body shivering though the air was not cold. "I am not born like you. I was built, shaped in their labs. A mix of human blood and their own designs. I was supposed to be a weapon, a tool, something they could use to control both worlds. The man's breath caught, disbelief and dread colliding inside him. So you are one of them, he said. His voice low and dangerous, her eyes shot up to his, shimmering with tears. No, I am not. I am more like you than them. I ran away the moment I understood what I was. I don't want to serve them. I don't want to be their machine. Her words cracked with desperation. She reached for his arm, her grip shaking. Please, you must believe me. The man's instincts screamed not to trust, yet something in her trembling voice kept him from pulling away. Before he could speak again, the hunters' voices filled the chamber, static-filled growls that twisted the air, their footsteps heavy, closing in. The red glow grew brighter, reflecting off the dripping water like rivers of blood. The girl panicked, pulling at his sleeve. We must move. Now. But the man stood still, his weapon aimed at the tunnel, his voice firm. If they made you, then they will never stop. Not until they have you back. Her answer came in a whisper so quiet it almost drowned under the hunter's echoes. That is why I need you. I cannot fight them alone. The words struck him harder than the threat itself. He had survived wars. He had faced death more times than he could count, but never had someone placed their life in his hands like this. The hunters burst into the chamber, their claws scraping the stone, their glowing eyes slicing through the dark. The leader's voice cut through the silence. Return the subject, and your life will be spared. The girl hid behind the man, clutching his back, her voice breaking once more. Please, don't give me to them. The man's chest rose with a deep, steady breath. He tightened his grip on the weapon, his voice hard as steel. If you want her, you'll have to go through me, the hunters hissed, spreading into the chamber, their weapons raised. The girl's voice whispered rapidly behind him, strange words in a language he had never heard. The sound carried power, vibrating through the floor. The broken machines along the walls flickered, their ancient lights sparking faintly. The man turned slightly, eyes wide. What are you doing? She shook her head, whispering faster, her hands glowing faintly blue as the air around them grew heavy. I am calling the ones who built this place. I am calling the machines, the hunters roared, recognizing the sound. Their steps quickened, weapons charging, their fear mixing with rage. The ground shook violently. Blue light surged through the chamber walls. The ancient machines stirred, gears grinding after centuries of silence. The hunters opened fire, red beams clashing with blue sparks. The air exploded with heat and light. The man shielded the girl, his body trembling from the force. The machines rose like giants awakening, their eyes burning with blue fire. The hunters screamed in their broken voices, Stop her! Stop the subject! The girl's voice grew louder, filled with strength instead of fear, her trembling gone, her words commanding the machines like a queen calling her soldiers. The man turned, his eyes filled with awe and fear. The girl he had thought fragile now glowed with power, her secret revealed in full force. The chamber shook harder, stones falling, water bursting from pipes. The machines towering over the hunters. Ready to strike, the man gritted his teeth, realization burning inside him. This girl was not just a fugitive, not just prey. She was something far greater, something dangerous. And as the hunters charged one last time, the girl looked at him, her eyes glowing blue, her voice steady. Now you know who I am. The machines roared to life, the chamber blinding with blue light, and the world around them shattered. The chamber lay in ruins, smoke rising from shattered machines, blue sparks fading into darkness once more. The hunters had been beaten back, their broken armor scattered across the stone floor, but the silence that followed was not victory. It was heavier, colder. The man's hand shook as he lowered his weapon, his ears still ringing from the chaos. Beside him, the girl stood hunched, her body trembling, faint traces of blue light still glowing under her skin. Her eyes lowered, her voice barely a whisper. You saw it? You saw what I am. The man stepped back slightly, his heart pounding. He remembered the words she had spoken, the glow, the power that had answered her. She was no ordinary fugitive. She was something else, something dangerous. He raised his weapon halfway, unsure if he should protect her or turn it on her. His voice came out rough, uncertain. You are one of them, aren't you? Her head snapped up, fear burning in her eyes. No, please, I told you I was made by them. But I am not them. I ran. I chose to be free. I chose to be more like you. The man clenched his jaw, his eyes narrowing. You spoke their language. You commanded their machines and they feared you. She stepped closer, her hands raised, shaking but desperate. Yes, they fear me because I am not under their control anymore. Because I am something they cannot contain. Don't you understand? If I return to them, they will twist me into their weapon and then they will destroy everything you know. Her words carried truth. But his doubt clawed at him. Every instinct screamed that she was dangerous, and yet another voice inside whispered that she was the reason he had survived this far. From the shadows came a faint sound. Static crawling through the air. One of the hunters was still alive, its broken helmet sparking, its voice weak but sharp. Human, give us the subject. She is not yours. She is ours. The man froze, his weapon still trembling in his grip. The words echoed inside him like poison. Give her up, live, or keep her and risk death. The girl turned to him, her voice breaking. Don't listen. They always promise life, but they only bring chains, please. Don't give me to them. The hunter coughed out more static, its glowing eye flickering. She will betray you. She is not human. She was built to deceive. Hand her over and we will spare you. The man's pulse roared in his ears, sweat dripping down his temple. His grip on the weapon tightened. Two paths stretched before him, both heavy with death, both impossible. The girl's voice cut through the haze, raw and trembling. Look at me. Do I look like them? Do I sound like them? I am begging you, not because I am strong, but because I am weak without you. If you give me up, it won't end with me. It will end with your kind too. Her words hit deep. Her tears real, her fear sharp and human. The man stared at her for a long moment, then slowly lowered his weapon, his voice steady but heavy. If you are lying, if you betray me, I will end this myself. The girl nodded quickly, relief flooding her face. I swear I won't betray you, the hunter hissed. Its voice twisted with fury. Foolish human, she will destroy you. She will destroy all of you. The man raised his weapon again, but this time he pointed it at the wounded hunter. A single shot rang out. The glow of the hunter's eye flickered once and then went dark. The chamber fell silent once more. The girl's breath came fast, her hands covering her face as if the weight of survival pressed too heavy. She whispered softly, "Thank you, you chose me." The man looked at her, his eyes still cold, his voice low. "Don't thank me yet. I chose survival, and right now, survival means you stay alive," she nodded, wiping her tears, her body still shaking. "Then let us keep moving before more of them come." The man checked his weapon, his voice grim. "There will be more. There always are." Together they turned toward another tunnel leading deeper into the ruins. But in the shadows above, unseen by them, a hunter's broken lens flickered faintly, recording, transmitting, carrying the man's choice back to others. The hunters would know. They would come in greater numbers. And this time they would not offer mercy. The deeper tunnels twisted like veins in the earth. Every step echoed with the weight of pursuit. The man kept his weapon raised, his eyes sharp, his body tense. The girl followed close, her breath uneven, her steps weak but steady. The silence around them did not last. Faint tremors shook the ground, dust falling from the ceiling. The hunters were not far. Their approach carried like thunder through the stone. The tunnel opened suddenly into a vast chamber, larger than any they had seen. Its ceiling stretched high into darkness, its walls covered in alien machines half buried in rubble. Wires hung like vines. Sparks flickered in the corners where old systems tried to breathe again. The girl froze, her eyes wide. "This is a control hall," she whispered, awe and fear mixing in her voice. "If they find us here, they will not just capture me. They will turn this place on." The man scanned the room, searching for exits. He spotted 2 collapsed pathways and 1 archway across the chamber, but reaching it meant crossing open ground. His jaw tightened. "We move fast. No hesitation." Before they could step forward, the sound came, claws striking stone, the hiss of static voices, red lights glowing at the tunnel behind them. The hunters arrived one by one, their armored forms stepping into the chamber, surrounding the ruins like shadows come to life. The lead hunter raised its weapon, its voice booming, "The subject belongs to us. Stand aside, human, and you may leave alive." The man stepped forward, keeping the girl behind him, his voice steady though his chest burned with fear. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me first," the hunters hissed. Their voices a chorus of static and rage, their weapons charging, filling the chamber with a sharp humming sound. The girl clutched the man's arm, her whisper urgent. "You can't fight them all. We must use the machines. They will answer to me again." The man's eyes flicked to her, suspicion and trust warring inside him. And if they turn against us, her gaze burned with desperate certainty, then we die anyway, but if I don't try, we die here without hope. The hunters advanced. Red light glowing brighter with each step, the man gave a sharp nod. Do it, but do it fast. The girl closed her eyes, her lips moving in the strange language once more. Her voice trembling at first, then growing steady. The words echoed like a forgotten song. Blue sparks leapt across the chamber walls. The ancient machines stirred. Their lights flickering to life, the hunters roared. Their voices breaking with panic. They opened fire. Red beams slicing through the air. The man fired back. Blasts shaking the chamber. Sparks raining from shattered walls. He dodged behind a broken console, pulling the girl down with him. Keep speaking, he shouted over the roar. Don't stop, she nodded, whispering faster, her eyes glowing faintly blue. The machines above groaned as gears the size of towers turned for the first time in centuries, cables lit with flowing energy. The air crackled with power. The hunters leapt forward, claws tearing into stone, beams exploding across the floor. The man fired until his weapon overheated. Smoke rising from its barrel, one hunter fell with a scream. Its armor shattered, but two more replaced it. Relentless, unstoppable, a blast struck near them. Throwing the man across the ground, his vision blurred, his ears rang. The girl cried out, reaching for him. Stay with me. He forced himself up, blood on his lips. His grip on the weapon weak but steady. Finish it, or we're done. Her voice rose louder, the strange words pouring like fire from her lips. The chamber shook. The machines roared to life, massive arms unfolding from the walls, blue light flooding the darkness. The hunters faltered, their weapons shaking, their voices frantic. Stop her, stop the subject. One hunter lunged. Claws raised for the kill. The man fired point blank. The shot tore through its chest, blue sparks exploding as it fell. Another hunter struck him across the side. Armor claws slicing deep, pain seared through him, but he pushed forward, refusing to fall. The girl's final words rang out like thunder, and the machines answered. Beams of pure blue energy blasted from the walls, striking the hunters, tearing their armor apart. Screams of static filled the air as their bodies fell, smoking and broken. The chamber glowed with power, the machines towering like guardians, their eyes burning with endless blue fire. The girl collapsed to her knees, exhausted, her glow fading, her breath ragged. The man staggered to her side, blood staining his shirt. His voice rough. You did it, you saved us, but she shook her head weakly, her eyes glistening with sorrow. No, this was not victory. This was only the beginning. From the shadows of the chamber's far side, more red lights appeared, dozens, maybe hundreds, glowing in the dark. The hunters had not stopped. Reinforcements had come, stronger, faster. Unafraid of the machines now, the man's stomach dropped, his grip tightening on his weapon. Then we make our last stand here. The girl lifted her head, her blue eyes burning faintly again, her voice steady despite the fear. Not the last, not yet, but it will be the hardest. The chamber filled with the sound of marching claws, the red glow spreading like fire. The machines hummed. The girl rose to her feet. The man stood beside her, both facing the oncoming storm, and the darkness came alive with war once more. The chamber shook as the red glow spread across the walls. Dozens of hunters marched from the tunnels, their eyes blazing like fire, their weapons humming with deadly power. The air vibrated with their advance, each step heavier than the last. The man tightened his grip on the weapon, his body aching from wounds, but his eyes sharp. Beside him, the girl stood with her shoulders squared, her face pale yet determined, faint blue light flickering under her skin. They will not stop, he muttered, his voice like stone. The girl's voice trembled but carried strength. Then neither will we, the hunters roared in their broken language. The chamber erupted with red beams tearing through the air. The machines answered with blue fire, blasts shaking the walls, the sound deafening. The man fired into the storm, each shot tearing through armor, each recoil rattling his bones. The girl raised her hands, her voice chanting words older than the ruins. The machines bent to her will, striking the hunters with burning light. But for every hunter that fell, two more appeared, their armor stronger, their steps faster. The floor cracked under their charge, sparks raining from the ceiling as stone gave way. The man pulled the girl toward cover, diving behind a fallen pillar as beams scorched past them. We can't hold them here, he shouted. She shook her head, her eyes glowing brighter. I can draw more power, but it will burn me. His jaw clenched, sweat mixing with blood on his face. If you die, all of this means nothing. Her voice softened, trembling. If I live and they take me, everything dies anyway. The hunters surged closer, their weapons charging for a massive strike. The leader raised its clawed hand, energy building like fire ready to consume the chamber. The girl screamed her chant louder, her body glowing brighter until the light blinded the man's eyes. The machines rose taller, their power surging. Blue beams clashed against the red storm. The explosion shook the chamber to its core. The man was thrown across the floor, pain ripping through his body, his ears ringing when his vision cleared. He saw the girl still standing, her glow fading but her eyes locked on him. I told you not to give me to them, she whispered, her voice weak but clear. Because I belong to you now. For a moment the words froze him, heavy with meaning he did not understand. Before he could speak, the ground cracked beneath them. The chamber collapsing, rubble falling in waves, he grabbed her, pulling her toward the far archway, the ceiling crumbling behind them. The roar of hunters and machines drowned under the crash of stone. They stumbled into a narrow passage, coughing dust, hearts pounding. The tunnel shook as the collapse sealed the chamber. The red glow vanished behind stone. Silence returned, broken only by their heavy breathing. The girl fell to her knees, exhausted, her glow gone, her voice fragile. We bought time, but they will dig, they will come again. Stronger than before. The man knelt beside her, his hand steadying her shoulder. Then we find a way out before they reach us. Her eyes lifted to his, shimmering with sorrow. You don't understand. They will never stop, not until I am theirs. Or I am gone. He frowned, his voice rough. Then we keep running. Keep fighting, but she shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. No, there is only one way this ends. The truth you don't want to hear. The man's breath slowed, his heart heavy. Tell me, she leaned closer, her whisper sharp, filled with pain. I am not just their creation, I am their key. Inside me is the code that wakes all of their armies. If they capture me alive, they will not just hunt. They will conquer. The man's stomach dropped, the weight of her words crushing him. His voice came out hollow. And if you die, her eyes closed briefly, then opened with fire. If I die, the key dies too. Their armies sleep forever. The silence stretched heavy between them, the truth pressing harder than any battle. The girl clutched his hand with trembling fingers, her whisper breaking. That is why I begged you. Don't give me to them. If you must choose, end me before they take me. The man's chest burned, his weapon heavy in his hand, the choice now darker than any he had faced. Protect her and risk the fall of his kind, or destroy her and kill the only reason he still breathed. He stared at her, her eyes full of fear yet steady, her body weak yet defiant before he could answer. The sound returned, faint but rising, claws striking stone, static voices echoing through the tunnels. The hunters were digging. The red glow flickered faintly in the cracks of the wall. The girl gripped his hand tighter, her whisper urgent. Too soon? They are coming. The man's breath slowed, his finger tightening on the weapon, his heart torn between trust and survival. And as the tunnel filled with the glow of red eyes once more, the story ended in silence, leaving only the question of his choice.